Center for Community and Ethnic Media here at the CUNY Graduate School of Journalism. I'm Errol Louis, the Director of Urban Reporting here at the J School. I'm also the political anchor at New York One News. And joining me on today's panel are Ana Nieto, the business reporter at El Diario, and David Greaves, the publisher of Our Time Press. Also, the center's co-directors are here, Jahangir Kadek and Karen Pinar. And the Newsmakers series, for those who don't know, is an on-the-record conversation between city leaders and the city's community and ethnic media. It is one of many programs offered by the Center for Community and Ethnic Media, which provides professional development, research, and overall leadership for the city's community and ethnic media. And you can find out more about the center online at ccem.journalism.cuny.edu. Today's newsmaker is Commissioner Gregory Bishop of the Department of Small Business Services. The mission of the agency is to help unlock economic potential and create economic security for all New Yorkers by connecting New Yorkers to good jobs, creating stronger businesses, and building a fairer economy in neighborhoods across the 5 boroughs. Gregg was born in Grenada, raised in East Flatbush, and served as Deputy Commissioner of SBS's Business Development Division from 2012 to 2015. He began at the agency in 2008 under former Mayor Michael Bloomberg. We thank him for joining us this afternoon. The weather in particular has been a challenge for a lot of people. The format of the discussion is as follows. We'll ask Mr. Bishop to spend about 5 minutes to make some opening remarks about one or more current initiatives in the office. And then Ana and David and I will ask some questions. And while that's going on, Jahangir has been passing out these cards, these index cards. You can write down your questions on them, with or without your name and the name of your organization. We do like to know who's asking the questions. We'll get in some of those questions as well. And at the conclusion of the event, the commissioner will step outside the room for any news organizations that need quick follow-ups or photos or anything else. And the rest of us will remain here and have a short meeting about what we have heard. So, with all of that said, let's begin. Commissioner Bishop, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Errol. And I'm a big fan of Errol. I've been following you for a long time. So it's a pleasure to be here. And it's a pleasure. I see a lot of familiar faces in the room. So that means we're doing a good job in terms of connecting to all the media in New York City. So you've already heard the introduction, so I won't go into sort of my role at SBS. I've been there for some time, and I've seen a number of changes with the agency. What I want to do today is really talk about what we're doing going forward. So for those who are not familiar, we have 3 verticals at SBS. We help businesses, we connect job seekers to jobs, and we invest in neighborhoods to create a healthy commercial corridor. So certainly, in those 3 verticals, there's a lot of exciting things that's happening at the agency. And a couple of the areas that I wanted to dive into, one of it is actually near and dear to my heart, because when I started at SBS, I actually started in the Minority and Women Business Enterprise Program. You'll hear me say MWBE, that's what that stands for, Minority Women Owned Business. And it's really, our focus is really to help MWBEs in the city connect to city opportunity. So recently the mayor announced a number of initiatives, including the creation of the Office of MWBE, and also a flat goal of 30% to help in terms of helping MWBs with contracting opportunity. What we are doing at SBS, we have an aggressive goal of doubling the amount of certified firms. So certainly I'm happy to be here so we could talk more about that because we need your help in terms of spreading that message. We also provide a lot of capacity building programs for MWBEs. We want to make sure that MWBs are positioned correctly to actually not only bid on the right contract, but have the necessary tools in order to be successful. So a couple programs we announced. One was a contract financing program. So this is, we've heard from MWBEs in terms of some of the barriers that are preventing them from being successful. One of them is access to capital. So in actually a month, we will be launching a capital access program where individuals can borrow up to $500,000 at a 3% interest rate if they are bidding on a city contract, or if they have won a city contract, or if they're a subcontractor, which means they are working with a prime contractor. We think that's going to be a game changer for a lot of MWBs in terms of getting access to capital. We also have a bond fund that we recently launched, and that fund will actually help MWBs who are going through all of our other capacity building program get the necessary financial help to actually get that bond. So in addition to our usual programs, which is technical assistance, so we help MWBs when they're bidding. We have mentorship programs, both for construction and goods and service, and we also have a number of programs with the private sector under the banner of the Corporate Alliance Program. Again, we are doing a lot in the city of New York, and certainly we have made a huge investment. We help businesses in general, and I dived into MWB because I'm really passionate about the work that we're doing there. But we help businesses in general and just start, expand, and operate. We do that through the NYC Business Solutions System. We have over 9 set of services. Access to capital is one. We know that a lot of business owners spend a lot of time trying to find the right lender, and in some cases they find the wrong lender. And we want to make sure that businesses know that we are there to guide them through that process. Not only help them find the lender, but actually help them package the application and actually walk them through that process. And we don't actually leave them until they actually get that loan. One of the things that we do, we have a network of 40 lenders. Last year we connected business to over $60 million, so we know what we're doing. But we also want to make sure that after they've gotten that loan, there's other services that we can connect them to. So we also have a program where we help businesses understand the regulatory environment. Not only understand it, but we are also working with our partner agencies to reduce the regulatory burden on small businesses. That is under the umbrella of Small Business First. We're using technology to do that. So if you go to nyc.gov/business, you'll be able to actually look up not only a wizard to figure out what requirements you need to meet in terms of licensing and permits, but you could also find out how to avoid violations, the most common violations. And we are continuing to build upon that platform. And by the end of this year, you'll be able to log in and have a global view of all the licenses that you have with the different city agencies, and you'll be able to conduct transactions. So again, we know a lot of business owners are busy running their business, and we want to make sure we do everything possible to make it easy for them to do that. New York City has over 200,000 small businesses, and almost half, 47% of them, are actually owned by immigrants. So certainly, we have a major focus on making sure that our services are available to the immigrant community. So we have an immigrant business initiative. We work with partners to provide services, not only at our location in Manhattan, but also in the different neighborhoods all across the city. And those services are our workshops. Our workshops are in the languages. We recently just added Bengali to the menu. So certainly we are looking at the fastest growing populations and ensuring that they know that we are there as an advocate and a partner. And we work with a lot of community-based organizations on that. So there's a lot we're doing on the business side. On the workforce side, we've launched, the mayor, when he first came in office, talked about what we're going to do in terms of connecting individuals to quality jobs. So we pivoted more from quantity to quality. So we're focused on sectors where we see that they're either it's growing or there's quality in terms of a career path. So we're focused on healthcare. We're focused on technology, industrial and manufacturing, construction, food and retail, food and beverage, and then retail. So certainly we are working with, and this is unique, I think, for government, because typically government, we create programs and then we put it out to the public. In this case, we actually worked with the business community, and we said, what are the skill sets that you're looking for? And the business community actually informed our program design. So we have about 10 tech training programs that's available to New Yorkers right now. These programs are in web development, security, et cetera. And individuals who are going through those programs we then connect them to job opportunities. And most of these jobs, we've been able to connect almost 90% of the participants to full-time jobs paying over $40,000 a year. So we think these are jobs that are paying a meaningful wage. And certainly we have over 20 workforce centers across the city. We have 5 hub centers in all the 5 boroughs, and our focus is on the expansion centers. We have some unique pilots that we're doing in Washington Heights. For example, we have a global talent program where we've partnered with HRA, so we're providing HRA services at our centers, but we're also doing contextualized training in terms of English as a second language for individuals, for foreign-born New Yorkers who are credentialed in their home country, but they are not recognized, that credential is not recognized in the United States. So that is our Washington Heights Center, and we're piloting that with the hope of expanding that to the entire system. We're also in the Bronx. The West Farms area is one of the largest areas of out-of-school, out-of-work youth. So in that center, we not only partnered with HRA, but we also partnered with the Department of Education, where we're providing contextualized GED training. So as they are earning their GED, they're also getting training in areas, and in those cases, we're looking at healthcare as well. So again, we are exploring unique opportunities across the workforce system. In the Rockaways, we are doing great work in terms of connecting individuals not only to jobs, but also to our additional training, soft skills training, et cetera, et cetera. I talked about workforce and our industry partnerships, but the last area I wanted to talk about was neighborhood development. So again, when we talk about making investments, as you know or may not know, we guide the bid creation process. So we work closely with council and each in particular steering committee in different areas to actually guide them through the creation of a business improvement district. But we also work with neighborhood organizations, LDCs, et cetera, to make investments in the neighborhood. So recently we launched a program called Neighborhood 360. So what it is, we understand some of these organizations are smaller. So we have a neighborhood fellows program where we are actually placing an individual in a neighborhood organization for a period of 9 months to help expand the capacity of that neighborhood organization. But we also work closely with not only the community but neighborhoods in specific areas to do what we call a community district needs assessment. That is doing a study of a particular neighborhood and doing a SWOT analysis of that neighborhood and then coming up with a document. It's available online and we can give you the information later, where we have identified the strengths, the weaknesses, the threats and opportunities of that particular neighborhood. And now we are looking to make investments to actually help that particular neighborhood actually overcome some of the, connect to the recommendations that we made. So a good example is, for example, in East New York, we saw a lot of opportunities for not only different events, but also business attraction and business retention. So we're looking to make some major investments in there. So again, we have our Avenue NYC program, which you may or may not be familiar with, but those programs allow organizations to apply, and based on what they are trying to accomplish, we make grants. And last year we made about $1.4 million in grants to those organizations. And some of the projects you might have seen in the East Village, we have 100 gates. So these are the project was working with local artists in the village to actually paint the storefront gates to make it an attraction to that retail corridor. So we do a lot at Small Business Services. I always have to say Small Business Services because when I say SBS, people assume we're the MTA, and we're not the MTA. But certainly, in those particular areas that I talked about, we're pretty excited about doing more. And one of the last piece, and then I'm happy to take questions. We are doing it with a lens of equity and opportunity. So certainly, as you heard me talking about, the different programs, we are looking to ensure that we are reaching into underserved communities and making investments in those communities. So example is one of my last press conference was in the Rockaways, where we just completed a storefront improvement program. And this was investments that we made that also spurred additional private sector investment, where we were able to refurbish the storefronts of a number of stores in the Mott Avenue corridor. And that area has not been served by the city for some time. And now the community just loves it. They see the change that's happening, and certainly we're looking forward to doing more of those investments in neighborhoods. So thank you very much for having me. I tend to talk a little bit longer because I love what I do, and I love the work that the agency is doing.
You gave us a full plate of information, and we'll turn it over to our folks for the first questions.
Hi, my name is David Greaves, and thank you so much for coming.
How you doing, David? Thank you.
Appreciate it. Question, in terms of NWBE spending.
Sure.
Looking at the controller's website, between 2011 and 2016, the spending increased $485 million, but among Black Americans, it was only $22 million, and Hispanics only $60 million. And my question is, in addition to the very fine print advertising program that you had, thank you very much, what else are you doing to increase, to target these groups, and what can the city do and the groups themselves?
Right. So I'm glad you raised that question, and I think one of, so first of all, we fundamentally have a disagreement with the controls report, but we also recognize that we still need to do more. That is why the mayor made the commitment to 30%. What we are doing at SBS, we are looking at areas in terms of where there's opportunity. So for example, when you're looking at Black-owned companies, where are those Black-owned companies? What sectors are they concentrated in? Are they concentrated in engineering? Are they concentrated in standard services? Because if you look at an engineering contract, obviously that dollar value is going to be greater than if you're looking at a standard services contract. That will then influence our outreach strategy for certification. So we're doing a couple things in parallel. We're going to streamline the certification process, make it easier, but maintain the integrity of the certification. We're going to look for where there's gaps. So for example, Black-owned companies, women-owned companies, where we are seeing huge spends, but we're not seeing companies that are certified in those areas. We're going to work with organizations to get more of those companies certified in those particular areas. And then, of course, we're going to make sure that people understand that now is the best time to actually become certified. I think one of the things I have to always say when we talk about the MWB program is, just to paint a picture, and I'll try to do it in 30 seconds. For 20 years, so when the last time we had a robust program was Mayor Dinkins. When Mayor Giuliani came into office, he actually ran on the platform of eliminating the MWB program. So that was 8 years of no activity. Then when Mayor Bloomberg came in, his first term was very focused on recovering the city after 9/11. So we really didn't have the start of a conversation until 2005. And at that point in time, we had to sort of go back and talk to companies and say, we need you to get certified. And of course, they had no reason to get certified. And now we have an office at MWB within City Hall. The mayor's made huge investments, not only with us, but also with other agencies. So for the message that I have for companies that are thinking about whether or not it's worth to get certified, it is absolutely worth it, because now you have a commitment from the top. Commissioners are meeting with the mayor on a quarterly basis to review their MW utilization. And you know what happens when the commissioner has to explain to the mayor why they did not meet their targets. No commissioner wants to do that. So there's an investment at the different agency. It's a cultural change where every commissioner is talking about MWB utilization from the top down. So now's the best time to actually get certified, and those are some of the things that we're doing to make sure that we have a targeted strategy to increase the certification of companies that may not be in particular areas.
In terms of a lot of companies are certified, but a lot of them don't get business. For example, we're certified, but how do you approach the agencies themselves? Is there an office in the agencies that companies outside of construction can go to?
So every agency has an MWB officer. What we have done and what we have changed is that usually the MW officer was probably a mid-level manager. And right now, the MW officers are now going to be someone on the commissioner's executive team. So MW officers are mandated to work with different companies. But we also provide a service through our vendor services team, where if you're a certified company and you may not have been getting opportunities, certainly you can come to us, we can take a look. We just recently made a huge investment, almost $500,000, in different 100,000 in each borough to really focus on helping MWBs become more competitive by their online directory. Many times I've talked to MWBs who have said, I've not received any solicitations, et cetera, and I take one look at their online profile and their codes are incorrect. Certainly, MWBs are busy running their business, so we have to do much more in terms of making sure that they're competitive, and that's one particular way where we can actually help. But we have a team that will sit down with any certified company and lay out almost a business development strategy in terms of these are the agencies that are procuring the work that you're looking for, and these are the contact information, and let us help you actually make that connection.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Ana Nieto. Hi, how are you?
How you doing?
Good. One of the things that I've heard from a lot of these companies is that, it's not easy to know when the contracts are there, when the RFPs are there, and sometimes even the language that are used by different agencies is not clear. We don't even know if they are eligible. So is there any effort to be made in this area so more companies that really don't have the resources to go through all the pages and pages that any RFP might mean, go through them with a little bit more focus on that?
So I hear in the question that you're asking. So number one, I think our technical assistance service that we provide. If you are a certified MWBE and you are considering responding to an RFP or a bid, you can actually come to SBS. We have staff members that will sit down with you and review the RFP with you and your response. Many times, a lot of MWBs, to your point, do not have the staffing capabilities to actually submit a proper RFP, and they may forget to sign page 35 in Addendum A. And because they didn't sign page 35 in Addendum A, their response is considered non-responsive. So we want to make sure that we eliminate all the technicalities of actually submitting an RFP. Obviously, we won't talk about pricing, but everything else we can help you with. I think the question, though, that you're asking is that, is there the ability for us to help MW find the right opportunities? And I think the answer that we certainly can. But what I tell MWBs is that you need to. It is a business decision. Most successful MWBEs have a staff member that's responsible for securing government contracts. We could certainly work with that person, but if you are the owner and you're also looking for opportunities, it becomes very challenging. You can come to us, we can make sure your codes are right. With City Record, if you register with the right codes, as a RFP is published with those codes, you get an email, but then you have to respond. And certainly if you don't have the right codes, under 5, and I could go through the whole procurement process, but literally your codes matter from 20,000 and up, because the city, and this was a policy decision we made, on the procurement rules, we have a limited advertising for anything from 20,000 to 100,000. And what it is, it's a system that pulls based on your codes, 5 non-certified companies and then 10 certified companies. And only you 15 can actually bid on that work. Now, if your codes are wrong, you're not hearing about those opportunities, which is why we're making those investments to really help MWBs with their codes. So certainly, I would say to MWB that's thinking about, I don't really have time to actually find the opportunities. There's ways to do it using technology, but certainly I would recommend, making the investment to have someone on your team that's really responsible for government procurement.
Where are we with the discretionary cap in terms of? I know a lot of small businesses are, they with the smaller contracts.
Yes.
And where are we in terms of lifting that?
So the reason why I smiled because I certainly, we have come a long way with discretionary spending. When I started with the city, discretionary, the limit was $5,000. We moved and changed the procurement rules to get it up to $20,000. And in construction, we were able to change the procurement rules to get it up to $35,000. While that is great, the state of New York, their discretionary levels start at $200,000. The MTA is at 400, I believe, 400 or $450,000. So in order for the city of New York to really make an impact, not only to small businesses, but to MWBEs, we need to have the same tools, and we need to be able to have our discretionary level at 200,000. You can only imagine the impact that it would have for a small business that we are able to just, through whatever process we want, award a $100,000 contract to a small company. That is a game changer for companies, and we are pushing at the state level to get that legislation changed. So certainly that's why I'm smiling, because anything that we can do to make sure that Albany understands that it's not just not just MWBs will benefit, but all small businesses in the city of New York will benefit from us just having the same tools that other state agencies have.
How about the program at federal level? We have heard that there might be some problems. Is that, do you expect any repercussions within the city,
So I've,
especially for immigrants?
yeah, so I mean the message that we have sent to immigrant, and the reason why I've made special mention to the fact that almost half the small businesses that are owned in New York are immigrant owned, is that immigrants, New York is an immigrant rich city. The mayor has been very clear on the fact that he will continue that. And we are very clear that we will support immigrant-owned businesses and continue to support immigrant-owned businesses. The question that you're asking is a very valid question. We do not know. In this administration, I think the answer to a lot of questions that I get in terms of how will this administration affect me as a small business owner, I have to truthfully tell business owners I don't know. Because you saw some of the rhetoric in the campaign, and what has actually manifested itself in terms of reality. So I just don't know. But what I do know is that the city of New York will remain committed to immigrants and immigrant entrepreneurs. We as an agency will remain committed to helping immigrant entrepreneurs not only start but operate their businesses. But certainly, the mayor is definitely has been on record by saying that anything that the federal government does to jeopardize that, he will fight. So I'm pretty proud to be part of that fight as well.
Okay. Some questions from our audience here. There's a broadly held view that it is more important for the administration to increase the number of MWBEs than increasing the capacity of certified minorities. Several certified MWBEs have been certified for 2 years without any contracts. How do you address this dilemma?
So, and we could address it in, we have to do both work in terms of not only increasing the capacity of MWBEs, but also increasing the amount of certified MWBEs. Currently, we're about 4,600, and in order to meet the 30% goal, we need to have more companies certified. I think for those companies that have been certified for more than 2 years, typically, when you get certified, it takes a couple months for you to start getting on the radar of agencies. That's why we have programs like our procurement fair, where you're able to, in one area, just meet all the particular agencies that you need to. Because those agencies need to know who you are and need to get you on your radar. That's why we're making the investments to make sure that you have the right codes. Because in some cases, what I've found is newly certified companies, it's when you're certifying, when you're selecting your codes, sometimes you select codes that in work that you're not eligible to do or you don't do at this point in time, but you aspire to do. And that actually throws the agencies off. So certainly we want to make sure that we position you in the right place. So we're working parallel in terms of our goal of getting to 9,000 companies, but also, the message is if you are certified and you've not either heard of opportunities, you've not gotten any opportunities, certainly come to us and we'll do an assessment of of your profile. We'll look at some of the agencies that you're trying to get opportunities, because in some cases they may not have an opportunity for 3 or 4 years down the road because of the way the contracting is. So we have that expert capability in terms of helping you figure out the right agencies to do your business development.
This comes from Greg McQueen of the Manhattan Times. Last month, the city announced that 8 MWBE firms were selected to head the construction of affordable housing development. Where do you see this program going in the future, and what is SBS doing to help MWBEs win housing contracts?
So, and that was a great program. That program actually started when because we are oftentimes compared with state agencies like the School Construction Authority, like the MTA, NYCHA, et cetera, because they have more generous procurement rules. They're able to do set-asides for their mentorship program. So what we did, using HPD as an example, we were able to carve out using PLAs, I'm sorry, not PLAs, pre-quals, where if you're MWBE or you agree to sub 50% of the work to MWBE, or you agree to joint venture with the MWBE, you can actually be on that pre-qualification list. What happened was mostly MWBs ended up on those pre-qualification lists, and whenever HPD went out to bid for that particular work, only those companies on the pre-qualification list were eligible. So HPD took that sort of framework and moved it over onto the development side. And that was terrific because they were able to build the capacity of MWB developers through their Growing Opportunities program. And then they set aside work, particular sites, for those MWBs to bid on. Certainly we want to, we think that's a successful model. In legislation, we actually have, I talked about the discretionary levels, but we actually have also legislation in Albany to allow us to do that particular sort of pre-qualification list for broader categories. So again, we are pushing the state to give us more flexibility in different tools to really help create. And what you're really asking is, like, how are we creating a pipeline of work for MWBs to actually participating? And that's some of the strategies that we're using.
Okay. This one is from Gary Pierre from the Haitian Times. In 2014 in New York, only 81 out of 1,962 business loans went to African American business owners. That's less than 2%. What is being done to address this disparity?
Great question. And we certainly, we are working, when I talked about our capital access program, we work with 40 lenders. And last year, when we connected businesses to over $60 million, 75% of that $60 million was actually through community development financial institutions, CDFIs. And what that says is that the traditional banks are not lending to small businesses. And certainly we are in a position, and we certainly will continue to work with the traditional banks to understand why they're not lending, and to figure out how we can partner with them to either increase the capacity, because in some cases it could be just how that small business is presenting themselves, meaning their paperwork to that traditional bank. In other cases, it might be policy, and certainly we are at the crossroads where we could influence policy. But to answer your question, we continue to work with traditional lenders and also nonprofit lenders. That's one of the reasons why we created the program that we did for MWBEs, because we recognized we had to step into that foray. But because it is only connected for MWBEs who are bidding on city work, or if they have a contract with the city, or they're a subcontractor for a prime contractor, we also want to make sure that we also connect with lenders who understand that they need to look beyond the credit score. And a lot of CDFIs, they do that, and certainly we've been successful in that particular area. We've been very successful with Kiva Zip, actually, in terms of we are one of the largest partners of Kiva Zip, and Kiva Zip focus on micro lending, so anything under up to $10,000. And in most cases, those are that is like the sweet spot for smaller businesses. But certainly we do all types of ranges of capital.
What are the most important programs that you have at SBS in order to help the entrepreneurs through from mentorships to some others, and how do you design these programs, and then how do you track the success of them?
Yeah. So I don't want to get into trouble when I get back to the agency by saying what's the most important program. I would
The
say.
one that made the difference.
Yeah. So I think, you know, I have to look at it in the different sectors, the different tracks that we have. So, for example, our immigrant business initiative was vitally important because when you look at, you know, the different pockets of immigrant communities across the city, most immigrants come here, you know, sort of not looking at government as an entity that I can go to for help. So certainly we have to penetrate that, and we did, and working with community-based organizations. A great example of that was up in Washington Heights, where we have a satellite NYC Business Solutions Center there. And you know, the first year, in terms of our financing numbers, we weren't doing a lot because a lot of business owners there did not look at us as a viable option to actually get a loan. And then last year, we were able to close on, I think it was like $300,000 with one business. So the word is out, and everyone knows that they can come to us. We are providing that help. So certainly, you know, the services through NYC Business Solutions, I think our investments on the MWB program, you know, I'll go down the list and I'll name all the programs again with the agency. You know, we 2 years ago, we launched with support from the Deputy Mayor, we.nyc. So, you know, when we create programs, one of the things we do, we listen. So we go out to the communities that we're trying to connect to, and we try to understand what are the barriers to their success. And then based on the data that we get, then we create those programs. So a good example was We NYC. We actually connected across the city over 1,500 women we brought together just in rooms like this, and we just talked about what are some of the barriers of your success. You know, what would you like to see the government do? And then certainly once we got the answers, then we were able to actually create what we have now, which is a program that helps women with credit, that helps women with mentorship, and that helps women connect with each other, because those were the things that we found out. And those are the things that we do for you know, all our programs. Our Small Business First initiative, in terms of reducing the regulatory burdens on businesses, we went out and connected with you know, over 1,000 business owners and said, what are some of the things? And we came up with 30 initiatives. So whenever we create a program at SBS, we do it by with input from the target population that we're trying to serve, and then we make sure, to your last point, we measure success based on the goals that we set on the programs.
How about best practices in other states or in other cities? I mean, do you?
So I'm smiling because I don't want to seem smug and say like New York City is the best city in the nation. But certainly we do look at other cities. You know, in the past we've looked at San Francisco. We look at other cities that have some of the same pressures that we have. So San Francisco, Seattle, you know, they're and even international like London, to see what are they doing to sort of solve certain problems. But certainly other cities are looking at us. You know, I'm really excited that Boston is figuring out ways to connect to their small businesses, and they're replicating some of the services that we offer. When we created we.nyc, we created with the goal of actually sharing. So our curriculum is open source. Our website, the coding, everything is open source. So if there's any city that wants to replicate we.nyc, we can just give them everything from the curriculum to the source code for the website for them to launch.
Okay. There's some requests for some clarifications. Could you please expand on the Fellows Program? How does one become a neighborhood fellow?
So actually, that's a great question, because applications are open right now. So we have, what we have done is we looked at neighborhood organizations. They applied to actually host a fellow. So we selected, I believe it was 10 organizations across the 5 boroughs as host sites. Because those organizations had to say, you know, had to demonstrate, you know, what the additional capacity would do in terms of helping them grow, et cetera, et cetera. And now what we're doing is we have opened the application process for fellows. These are typically, you know, individuals who want to have an experience in neighborhood community building or planning. And certainly last year we had over 70 applications. for about 10 positions. So the applications are open right now. It's nyc.gov/neighborhood360, and folks can apply online.
Okay. According to the Small Business Administration, immigrants in particular often have to rely on personal or family loans to start their businesses. Are you reaching out to these groups in particular, and how so?
Yeah, so that's our IBI program, and that's exactly why we started that, because again, immigrant communities tend not to look at government as an entity that will be helpful to them. And certainly, we want to make sure that the message is clear that New York City will always be an immigrant-rich community, and our services will always be available to immigrants. So we work with neighborhood organizations, community-based organizations. So, for example, in Brooklyn, when we wanted to reach a particular population in Brighton Beach, they're mostly Russian speaking. We went to an organization, Shorefront Y, that has a really strong connection to that community. And we host classes there in Russian. All our services are available in Russian. So that is our model, is really working, because we're not going to go in there as the city of New York, because certainly, even when I show up at businesses with my suit on and I said, I'm here to help, there's still a look of suspicion in terms of, are you really here to help me, or are you really trying to get me? And what we want to say is that at SBS, we advocate for small businesses. I actually go to my other fellow commissioners and question some of the regulations that they have. So we go through, we do a lot to really advocate for the small business, and certainly, what better way to partner, what better way to reach particular neighborhoods than to partner with our community-based organizations that's already embedded. And we also have a terrific relationship with the library systems.
Well, in particular, though, on that question of sort of informal or family or community-based financing as opposed to formal programs in connection with the government, is your assumption that it would be better to have sort of an arm's length government banking relationship as opposed to?
No, I think it's more so in order for us to prove ourselves, we have to have a relationship with a community-based organization. But that community-based organization, because it's almost like train the trainer. So they know all our services, and then they are able to then connect that particular entrepreneur to, for example, our financing services. And then we take that relationship and continue on. Once they actually get the financing, then the question is, are you trying to open up a store? If you're trying to open up a store, let's hook you up with a pro bono attorney because we want to make sure we protect you. If you're opening up a store somewhere, you may be eligible for incentives. So we sort of connect the dots once we get them into our system. But in order to actually make that first touch, we have to work with community-based organizations.
Question. I've had several people, usually in construction, say that their company was used as an NWBE component, and to get a contract. And then after the contract is awarded, their company is not given the percentage that they thought they would have. Is there any way you folks track the NWBE percentages?
We could do a lot better, and I think what you're hearing is there's twofolds. There's two sides to that. One, there's a phenomenon, what I've seen is called bid shopping, where a prime contractor goes to a whole bunch of MWBs and say, this is the work, can you submit a bid? And they'll probably submit that MWB's name, but that MWB isn't aware. And the way you track that is actually through the subcontractor payments. The city is very, very clear with prime contractors. They have to meet their subcontracting goal. If they do not meet their subcontracting goal, there's liquidated damages, there's negative index ratings, there's actually serious consequences for not meeting their goals. So what we are doing to further that is actually we're making an investment in technology where we will be able to easily track the payments made to MWBs who are subs, so that way we can faster find out whether or not that prime contractor is using the MWB that they said they would use when they submitted their bid. And that is happening right now in terms of us building out that tracking system.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Can we your job. It's the accelerator program. How is it going? Is this thing that in order to make sure that everything in the red tape for small businesses
okay.
is doing in under one roof?
Yep.
How is it working?
Yep. So we have a number of services under that. So this is Small Business First, and what the services are. Number one is working with different agencies and eliminating some of the regulatory burdens. So we have over 30 initiatives. We recently announced the completion of, I think it was about 15 or so of that. So we're about halfway there. There's a couple that's already in progress and close to closing out as well. So it is going well. We have a number of services. So not only do we expedite permits, so that is a service that's available. Again, making it easier for businesses so they don't have to actually pay an expediter. But we also have now a compliance advisory team. So that is a service where individuals, any business owner that's out there can request a compliance advisor to come out. And what we do is really a mock inspection. So we highlight potential violations for that small business before the actual agency goes out. So we have folks who are trained by the regulatory agencies like health, DCA, fire, sanitation, DOT. So we know some of the things that will get a small business. If you have an A-frame, should it be outside on the sidewalk, for example? Or if you're a nail salon or barber shop and you have your pricing, do you have separate pricing for men or women? And those are the things. One of the things I've learned from this job is a lot of business owners don't know what they don't know. So certainly that service is available for them. And again, the technology work that we're doing to make it easier for businesses to see a global view of what their interactions with the city are. Our first phase will launch in April, so that will be the first pass, and then by the end of the year, you'll be able to conduct transactions. So everything is moving along pretty good.
Is your agency part of the discussion with your sister agencies when city planning and DOT are talking about where to place city bikes and bike lanes and traffic islands and other things?
So for the plazas, our agency, we are part of the discussion. What we typically do is if there's a business that has an issue with another agency, they can come to us. So certainly, DOT, when they're placing city bike, they look at the business impact. But certainly, if a city bike station shows up in front of a business, it depends. I mean, some businesses love it, and then some businesses don't. For those that don't, they can certainly come to us, and we can certainly, advocate on their behalf. But that's the work that we do. Really, if you're a business owner, we are your partner, and certainly we'll help you figure out how to navigate with the city.
Have you ever persuaded them that maybe they should move the bike rack or move the traffic island?
We have not had a situation with a bike rack, but we've had other situations. For example, where a business owner, and would speak specifically about DOT, the metered parking might expire at 9 p.m., whereas anywhere else around the neighborhood, it's expiring at 7 p.m. So we do advocate to DOT to make it consistent, for example, because we know that business owners, parking is an issue, and the sooner folks can park, the better it is for them. So we've advocated on that particular issue. We've certainly advocated for industrial businesses to get more loading zones. So there's a number of things that we've done in the past. But City Bike has not been, I think the business community has actually been very receptive to City Bike.
There are a lot of small businesses here in the room today. And so the question becomes, is all of your agency's media work done in-house, or does SBS put out RFPs for media services?
So I did build up my comms and media team, and two of them are here right now. But one of the
Please
things—
introduce them so folks will know who it is.
So Nick and Catherine, my press secretary and press associate. But one of the things that we have done is, one of the challenges that SBS Small Business Services has had, and this is one of the reasons why I'm happy to be here, is just awareness of our services. A lot of business owners do not know that we have all these services available at no cost to them. A lot of job seekers do not know that we're able to help them. A lot of businesses don't know that we have the right talent to actually help with recruitment. So certainly we have done a lot since I've become commissioner in terms of our comms and marketing. And one of the things I do know is we have to work closely not only with the mainstream press, but all the press that are focused on different communities. And certainly we have done, I think, a concerted effort to do more with the ethnic press, and certainly we'll continue to push on that to make sure that anytime we're trying to do the broadest campaign, that we include the ethnic press in that.
When you identify the different sectors that you're working with, you mentioned tech and health and food services and so forth. Does media fall in that category as well?
So in the sectors, so we work closely with the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, and they are focused on really helping media companies. One of the things that we have through our education piece is a specific program for media entertainment program companies at NYU. It's called Strategic Steps for Growth, and this is for media companies not only to develop a 3-year growth plan, but also to make connections not only to other city agencies, but all the terrific work that MOM is doing to bring entertainment and the film industry here to New York City.
Question. You mentioned a number of programs. Do you folks have any a measurement of how well various programs have done over the years, and you can say, oh, this is working, that's a dog, this is working,
Yeah, so we've when I talked about the compliance advisors, since we launched, we've helped over, I believe it's like 4,000 businesses. So we have metrics based on where we want to be. So for example, we NYC, we're looking to connect to over 5,000 women over the next 3 years. Our MWE program, we're looking to certify, double the amount of certified companies that we have by 2019. So we have different checkpoints where we can measure whether or not a program is being successful or not. One of the things that, one of the numbers that we have, when you look at all the MWs that have won contracts in the last fiscal year, almost 2/3 of those used one of our services. So that means that if you use our services, you can certainly, the chance of you actually being successful increases tremendously.
There's a related question that just came up. Is there one borough more represented in getting loans, technical assistance, small business development services compared to others? Do you have statistics by borough?
So we can, I don't have it on me, but certainly we could take, one of the things that we look at is, again, through our strategy of getting outside of the core of Manhattan, is really, connecting businesses in the outer boroughs to our services. I think, just in terms of the numbers, typically I see, and we can get you the numbers for financing, but typically I see Brooklyn as being the borough where we see a lot of activity, followed by Queens. We have a lot of work to do in the Bronx. I think there's a lot of terrific small businesses in the Bronx, but we need to do more to get them connected to our services. And some of it is just awareness, really, being aware that we have these services available. And Staten Island, just being Staten Island, being more residential borough, they typically, in terms of the business community, we've done a lot of work in Staten Island, but when you look at volume, and certainly Queens is in between, Brooklyn and the city.
How active are you in the rezoning plans of the city? I mean, are you working with the other agencies that are, and specifically with the rezoning plans of that have already been approved, and some others that are in study?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's a testament to Mayor de Blasio's focus on making sure that all the agencies collaborate with each other. In the past, SBS was not active in rezoning conversations in the past administration. We would come in at the tail end. With this administration, we're at the very beginning. Matter of fact, when you look at the different areas, just to give you an example, with East New York, we were on the ground long before DCP and the other agencies do an assessment of the businesses, talking to business owners, finding out where they were with their business, and really we were able to come up with not only services that we think will be helpful to those businesses as they go through the rezoning, but we were at the table from the very beginning. And that is the same across all the other neighborhoods. We've had staff on the ground doing the research and gathering intelligence on the needs and services that the small businesses in that community will need going forward.
Okay, I got one last question. The Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce is in the process of launching a community development financial institution with a U.S. Treasury grant of $125,000. Is your department going to assist the Brooklyn Chamber in this endeavor?
So we have, once it's launched, one of the things when we talk about a network of 40 lenders, we, anytime there's a loan product that's out there, our team, and we have a team of finance account managers, and internally we have a team that's focused on capital access. We evaluate that product. We look at the product, we figure out who would make the best consumer of that product. So that way when we actually sit down with a business owner, after we have done our assessment of that business owner, then we can actually point them to the right place. So again, a lot of businesses and a lot of business owners, they spend an enormous amount of time looking for capital. We are doing that work ahead of time. So when a business owner comes to us, it's a matter of just we do the assessment, we find out how much you're looking for, and then we actually make that connection. So that was a long way of saying yes. Once that product is launched, we'll be working with them.
I just got to ask, there's a sort of a threshold question we maybe should have asked earlier on, but there are home-based businesses, there are sole proprietors, there are bloggers in the media space, there are folks who are running very small businesses. What size is either too small, or do you have programs that reach down to those kind of sole proprietors?
Absolutely. So when we talk about, when we define a small business in the city of New York, it's 125 employees or less. However, when I talk about all the services that I just talked about, and when you look at the consumer of our services, we tend to actually skew to the micro business. So these are businesses with 10 or less employees. They don't have a banking relationship. They don't have an attorney on retainer. So that's why they really need our services. So yes, we certainly, home-based businesses, sole proprietors, we can help all of them.
Okay. All right, we got a lot in an hour, and yeah, exactly, yeah. I know you can keep going, but thank you so much, and everybody join me in thanking Commissioner Bishop for coming by today.
Thanks for having me.